This situation has moved well past messy. At this point, it's starting to look calculated, emotionally charged, and honestly, a little reckless. And we're going to walk through it carefully, step by step, because the deeper you look at what's happening between Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma, the less straightforward it becomes. But before we get into the details, I want to ask you something. Right now, does this feel like ordinary relationship drama to you? Or does it feel like there's something much bigger playing out behind the scenes? Keep that question in mind as we go, because this situation has layers that most people haven't even gotten to yet. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is about actually breaking these stories down, not just skimming the surface. Now, a lot of people thought they already had this figured out. The assumption was simple. Papoose moved on, Remy Ma is hurt, Claressa Shields is the new woman in the picture. Clean narrative, easy to follow. But that version of events is unraveling quickly. Let's go back to where things started getting genuinely strange. Remy drops a track, takes her shots, nothing unusual there. That's par for the course. But then Papoose follows it up by posting photos wearing his wedding ring, right in the middle of all of this public back and forth. Think about that for a second. Why would you post your wedding ring at that specific moment? That doesn't read as coincidence. That reads as a deliberate, carefully timed message, a way of saying she's still my wife without actually having to say it out loud. But here's where the whole thing shifts. Remy didn't respond. No emotional reaction, no public moment, nothing that suggested she wanted reconciliation. If anything, her silence communicated that she was completely done, fully moved on. And that raises an interesting question. Do you think that landed differently than Papoose expected? Because what happens next seems to line up with someone whose ego took a hit.
I can't even find my damn corkscrew, bro. I'ma leave it be. But you know what? Keep Claressa Shields' name out y'all motherfucking mouth. You bitches can't fight like me. Y'all can't squabble. You can't squabble like the GWOAT. Bitch, you can't squabble like the GWOAT. Watch your motherfucking mouth. Trying to clout chase your way to the top. You look stupid. I try not to get mad on here, but man, bitches popping their off fight week. Like y'all really about something.
Almost immediately after that, Papoose is right back in Claressa's orbit, and this time, more visibly than ever. More posts, more public appearances, more documented everyday moments together. We're talking grocery runs, casual outings, all of it being filmed and put out there for the world to see. Now, couples do ordinary things together, that's normal, but this didn't feel organic. It felt staged. It felt like something was being demonstrated rather than just lived, and the timing made it even harder to ignore. So the question worth asking is, was that genuine? Or was it damage control dressed up as a relationship? And then there's the bigger picture that people keep circling back to. Claressa Shields is at the absolute peak of her career right now. Multiple world championships, serious money, a legacy being built in real time. She is winning by every measurable standard. And yet here she is, entangled in a situation involving a man who is still legally married to someone else, surrounded by public drama, competing narratives, and unresolved confusion. That's what makes people pause. That's the part that raises the uncomfortable question nobody wants to say out loud. Why? Why this situation? Why now? Feelings are real, and that's not being dismissed here. But at some point, the full picture has to be considered. And that's exactly when the baby conversation enters the room. Because this is where the entire dynamic shifts. Initially, the chatter was that Claressa was the one pushing for a child. The idea being that since Remy had built that family bond with Papoose, Claressa wanted to establish that same kind of permanent connection. But now the story being told is that it's actually Papoose who was pushing for it. Sit with that for a moment, because that changes everything.
Love a good outing in my car. Oh my God. Every time I get in here, I be like, cash, So I called my brother today, right? And he's like, sis, I know you be in that car, but that's not a regular car. It's a machine. Don't be speeding. And I told him, I done already went 120 in this thing. He talking about some, don't go on so fast. So I be trying not to, but it's like it's like the car is just fast.
A man who is still legally bound in a marriage, pushing for a child in a new relationship. Take a moment and really think about what that sounds like. Because to a lot of people watching this unfold, that doesn't sound like love. That sounds like strategy. And once a child enters the picture, everything changes permanently. It's no longer just about feelings or public perception. Now you're talking about financial ties, legal ties, lifelong obligations. The stakes become completely different. And people have already started drawing comparisons to situations where the woman holds the career, the wealth, and the momentum, while the man quietly positions himself to benefit long term. Those patterns exist, and people recognize them. So when that comparison gets made here, it's not coming out of nowhere. Now, there are also long-standing rumors, and to be clear, these are unconfirmed allegations about Papoose having a pattern of infidelity throughout his relationships. Some people have even connected that narrative back to the circumstances surrounding Remy Ma's legal troubles. Again, nothing verified, but the fact that people are making those connections tells you a great deal about how this entire situation is being perceived. And it goes a long way toward explaining why Remy appears to be completely done. Because if you went through one of the hardest seasons of your life and believed someone close to you played a role in it, would you go back? Most people honestly wouldn't. And that leads to something that's just now getting serious attention. There is genuine uncertainty about whether Papoose and Remy Ma are even officially divorced. People have been digging through public records, trying to find confirmation, and nothing conclusive has surfaced, which raises an uncomfortable but necessary question. Is this actually a new relationship, or is this something developing in the middle of a marriage that hasn't legally ended? Because legally and emotionally, those are two entirely different situations. Remy herself has pointed out that during divorce proceedings, certain legal connections, like health insurance, can't simply be cut off overnight, which means that behind the scenes, that legal bond is still very much active. And here's the part that doesn't get discussed enough. If anything serious were to happen, Remy would still hold legal authority in certain matters, not Claressa. Think about what that means for someone trying to build a future in that space. You can be the most publicly present person in someone's life and still not hold the position that actually matters when it counts. And maybe that's exactly why everything feels so unsettled. Claressa is visible, vocal, and fully committed to this situation, but there are real signs that she doesn't have full control of it. And when people sense that kind of instability, they react to it. You see it in the interviews, the comment sections, the posts, like the moment she told people to stop asking about Papoose and just focus on her. That's an understandable response, but you can't deliberately build public attention around a situation and then express frustration when the public pays attention to it. That's not how this works. And just when it seems like it can't get any more complicated, rumors about additional women start surfacing. People noticing patterns, overlapping timelines, familiar connections. Nothing confirmed, but enough to keep the conversation going and the questions multiplying. Meanwhile, all of this is quietly taking a toll on Claressa's public image, not just because of the relationship itself, but because of how she's been showing up publicly throughout it. There was that moment involving another fighter where her response came across as dismissive rather than composed, and even people in her corner noticed it. At her level, people expect a certain degree of discipline and professionalism. When that starts slipping during personal drama, it shifts how people see you, regardless of how dominant you are inside the ring. And a growing number of people are now asking whether this situation is affecting her focus, whether she's spending more energy trying to prove something than actually moving in silence and letting her work speak. The cycle keeps turning: attention, distance, reaction, and repeat. And the people watching from the outside can see it clearly. Which brings everything to the single biggest question hanging over all of this. What happens if a baby actually comes into this situation?
Because at that point, there is no reset button. That's a lifelong connection, regardless of what happens between the adults involved. If the relationship doesn't hold, you're now looking at custody arrangements, financial obligations, legal entanglements, all of it. That's why so many people are describing this as rushed and risky, especially when the foundation underneath it all still isn't stable or clearly defined. Because when you step back and look at the full picture, Remy Ma appears to have moved on emotionally and closed that chapter. Papoose looks like someone who hasn't fully released his grip on anything, and Claressa is the one who is completely all in, with the most to lose if this falls apart. That combination right there is exactly why this situation keeps escalating instead of settling. So here's the final question. Do you think this quietly resolves itself, or do you think something even bigger is still coming? Because based on everything playing out right now, this does not feel anywhere close to over.